Today we are focusing on Unit 2 exponents. Before we delve into the rules of exponents, let us explore and define exponents. So what are exponents? Exponents, they tell us how many times to multiply a number times itself. So let's see what that's going to look like. So here I'm going to write down for you 10 with a little 3 on top. So let's go ahead and break down and define exactly what that 10 and that little 3 on top means. So the 10 is called my base, yes? And that little 3 sitting right on top of my 10 is called the exponent. Now, if my exponent tells my base, that big guy, what to do, let's see what the little guy is saying to the big guy. He wants the big guy to multiply himself 3 times. So let's take a look. 10 times 10 times 10. So we just define what is an exponent. So exponent tells us how many times to multiply our base. Hope that makes sense. As we continue with Unit 2 exponents, let's look at 3 formats for numbers we will see throughout this unit. So the first one talks about expanded notation. It says it's a format when exponential notation is expanded and the multiplication is shown. So here's an example. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. That's our example for expanded notation. Let's look at the exponential notation and what that really means. It says the format of a number with a base, so here's my base, 6, and an exponent, 4. And an example I can use. So -2 is my base, the 3 is my exponent. The next one talks about standard notation. And standard notation is when we use an exponential notation, just like the one above, to express as a regular number. So I am just going to use the same number that I have above, 6 to the 4th power. So here's my exponential notation, and this is how we express it as a regular number. 1296. Hope that makes sense. Let's do a quick example of the 3 formats. So I have exponent form, which is the same as my exponential notation, factored form, same as my expanded notation, and then my standard form, same as my standard notation. So let's look at the first example. 4 to the 3rd power. 4 is my base, the 3 is my exponent. So when I'm factoring it out, I am going to factor out my base, and my exponents tell me, my exponent right here tells me how many times to factor it out. So 4 times 4 times 4. 3 times. So all we have to do now is just multiply our number. So 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. And that is my standard form. Hope that makes sense. Let's look at the second example. M to the 2nd, which is a variable. So I need to factor out my m. M times m, according to my exponent, 2 times. Now m is an unknown variable. We don't know what that number is, so I cannot express it as a standard form. Now let's look at the last example. It's in my factored form, and I need to put it in my exponential form. So once again, I know my base is going to be 3, and my exponent, it's the number of times you multiply that base, okay, by itself. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So 3 to the 4th power. Now all I have to do is just multiply the factored form to get my standard form. So 3 times 3, that's 9. I'm just going to group them. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 9 will give me 81. Hope that makes sense. Once again, you can rewind You can pause, listen to it again.